filmmakers and writers. Welcome to the TowerCast podcast, the towering podcast for the towering filmmaker.
Welcome back.
We are your humble and gracious hosts, coming to you from El Paso, Juan Paul Flores.
John Eric Castro.
And here we have the beautiful people in the background, Carlos de la Torre.
Michael Delo.
Michael de la with the
I
mic.
got it right this time.
And hopefully a camera pointing at him, yes sir. And then of course our producer, who just flinged a hat on my nose before we started recording.
It was warranted.
It was warranted. I said fix it in post. I shouldn't do that to my
And then the one and only Michael.
Hi.
Michael Head, the director
How's it going?
of...
Which one we're talking about again?
The
Last hit.
Yeah, dude,
I know.
it's one of the best ones.
Last hit.
The Last Hit.
The last hit.
The Last Hit.
How
Here
you
we
doing,
are.
Michael, man? What's the good word?
I'm good.
He's a
It's
good one.
daylight savings today. We're recording this on
Yeah.
daylight savings, so I'm kind of like, where's that hour? Where did that hour go?
Right.
That's okay.
It's fine. We're all energized, it seems. We got McDonald's in our bellies and stuff. But
You
yeah,
guys.
man, here we are again talking about another film, talking about some more nuggets of trinkets that hopefully we'll squeeze out of Michael again.
You're gonna dissect your brain.
Dissect your brain, as always.
This was a good one, dude.
Oh,
For sure.
Good.
Michael, you have to start hyping yourself up. Because, no, you really do.
That's
Because
his style, man. He's laid back.
I know he's a laid back dude. But I know well, I guess just jumping into it, like, what did you, like...
How do you think of
How did
these
you think of
stories,
this
man? Go from poster girl to this.
I got stuck, I'm sorry.
this is kind of one that's more my wheelhouse a little bit. At least I think it's my wheelhouse a little bit. Kind of the
What do you
thriller.
mean? What's your genre? What's your...
The thriller suspense type thing. That's kind of the one that I'm a little more.
yeah.
I lean more towards those. Poster Girl was a great story and I loved it. It was doing that.
But
stuff.
then you have
This is
also Night Shift, which is kind of...
Night Shift. Assumed we're going to talk about in a little bit. That's
Right.
a little more of the crime thriller type.
We're
stuff.
gearing
That's kind
up,
of more
aren't
my.
we?
It's kind of more my wheelhouse thing. This Last Hit was literally. I don't remember the exact genesis of it, but basically we needed another script for the Tower 20.
Nice.
Hey, but you came up with something good,
And
though.
they said, we need a script soon. And I said, I got an idea. Should
been
be one
lingering.
and initially it was going to be like entirely one location. And then we ended up having two locations.
Which
I wanna
always
say
happens.
You guys filmed this
Always
exactly
happens.
1 year ago, no?
I have no idea.
Because I remember
I don't remember the dates.
this was like, I think before I officially joined, but I do remember seeing you guys post about it on your Instagram and stuff. But I feel like you really tried to experiment with the script. Like, there was some suspense elements, especially towards the end with the twist and stuff.
Yeah, well, to me, the experiment was more in the action part because I hadn't ever actually directed any action stuff. I'd studied how to do it a lot, but I never really done it myself.
Like
and
the
so,
choreography, like telling them what to do, how to punch and stuff.
Because
Which
Night
is-
Shift
go
was
for
suspense build up, and then Poster Girl was just I want to say like cinematography,
yeah, just
directing,
romance,
you know,
romance stuff. Yeah.
right feeling. And then this one, yeah, you were saying action and stuff. So how did that go about? How did you guys handle like or approach the fighting scenes?
Well, we knew it was a short script. It was only 4 or 5 pages. It's a very short script. And so we planned it out over a 2-day shoot. The first day was the outside the cafe stuff. We had a great cast with him. Sorry, Renee, you can't be here. You're supposed to be here.
That's right, Renee.
Shout out. And Jerry, who was here last week, he was in it.
Yeah.
And Jerry keeps asking me for a sequel. We're gonna go back to that.
To Last Hit?
To Last Hit.
Oh, okay.
Good, man.
Yeah, the cast was Tony played by Renee Herrera, Liz
Mhm.
played by Stefani Toth.
Stephanie.
It's a Stefani. I don't know. It reads like Stefani. The Man, Jerry Walker. We just had him recently. The young assassin, Kyle Burnett, right?
Yep.
And then restaurant patrons, I guess, like Eric Sanchez and Luis Morano and, you know, all the usual suspects.
How was Renee? I've always wondered how he was to
Oh,
work
he's
with.
fantastic.
Yeah.
He's
like,
great.
He was in...
He was actually one of the first people I met here in town. Even before I got hooked up with Tower, he was one of the first people I met and worked with in El Paso. Because
how did...
I just moved to town. I was reaching out to people. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, I need some help on a short film I'm doing." It was his first short film. James, I can't remember James' last name. That's a terrible thing to say. No, Chattis. I don't remember James' last name. I'm sorry, James. He's a nice guy. He's a great guy. He directed this little short film. It was called Seguro. Renee was in it, and so he was the lead, and he was playing a border patrol agent. We met through there, and just
You
kinda
were
got
working on it?
connected. And then I helped Renee with a video. Renee does a charity called Movies for Kids, where they take underprivileged.
That's cool.
Damn,
They
I
take
didn't know that.
they take like underprivileged kids, orphans, then they take them to like big premieres, like to early showings of like Star Wars, and it's a
Wow.
fantastic. I love that idea.
That's pretty
So
awesome.
I helped him film a video to do some fundraising for him, and that's a great charity. Shout out Movies for Kids.
Movies for kids.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
That's pretty cool.
And we needed a seasoned assassin character for Last Hit, and Renee was the first person to come to mind. He's got the look. He's got
Definitely got the look.
got the chops.
Delivery.
Yeah, and he just pulled it off great. It was fantastic.
And here's the other one. How was Stephanie Todd?
She was
I've
really
worked
good.
with her. Shout out. She's interesting.
I had
You guys worked on
There's still time.
There's Still Time. Yeah, she was in There's Still Time.
I worked with her on a couple of other ones.
I hadn't worked with her before. I'd seen her in a couple of things.
She's lovely. She's just
she did
very interesting.
She did a video audition, and she nailed the video audition just fine. So we
That's
brought
exactly
her
what
in.
you were looking for.
And she, I think, my understanding is she has some dancing background, which is something that also, for the choreography part, that also, I could be wrong about that. I think she has some
I've
dancing
seen her.
background.
Yeah, I've seen her do some stuff.
So that helps with the choreography, because in movie fights, it's never just go fight.
Yeah, that's
It's
interesting.
choreography. It's
Right.
it's closer to a dance than a fight. Like one of my favorite
That's a good way.
one of my favorite action movies is actually Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And
Nice. Good shout out.
the young girl, she's also in Hero, and I don't remember her name. They do these intense fight scenes. Obviously, she was a ballerina in the Chinese prima ballerina. I don't know what the ballerina. I'm not one of them fancy people that knows what this.
No, but
she was a dancer,
Yeah.
and
Right.
she got hired to do this role with all these fighting, and the dancing is what helped her, because it's all
I
choreography.
can see that for sure.
And so we showed up on set. We knew it was going to be a short shoot. We filmed the first part, I think. No, we filmed the cafe stuff on the second day. I think that was the second. Was it the second day? I don't remember.
Aste.
I don't remember. I don't remember what order we filmed it in.
No, we filmed in order. We filmed in order, I think.
Well,
This one?
the main part, the bulk of the film with Renee and Steph, that was at somebody's house. Can I say whose house? Can we just say whose house? It was at Austin's house.
They got mad because you name dropped his house.
Wow. At our house, at all of our houses. But we knew it was going to be a while to do the choreography, so we planned a 12-hour day.
Oh wow.
And the first 8 hours of that was just the choreography.
And usually with these fight choreography scenes, there's usually an accident or like a slip of a.
Yeah, you try to avoid those.
Yeah, but
as
did it
much as
happen? Because
possible.
it's happened with me.
It did not happen in
Oh,
this.
okay.
In I
That
don't
12-hour
recall
did
it
help.
ever happened. We planned out an entire. I think it was a 12-hour day on a Saturday. The first 8 hours or so, we were literally just rehearsing and choreographing things. We
That's how
divided the fight up into three different sections. Okay, we should have done 4. Sorry.
Not enough.
He's the producer. I know.
We divide the fight up into different sections, and the thing about especially fight choreography, you start slow.
For
You
sure.
start slow. And it's literally just getting the muscle memory
Right.
for the actors.
It is like a dance. Like
How long does that
one,
take to
two,
rehearse?
and then you do this. And then
We were doing 8 hours. We literally did 8 hours of rehearsal.
Really?
And then
for
we shot
the fight
scene.
alone.
Mhm.
Really?
Because we wanted to wait until the sun went down, because the setting was at night, and instead of blacking out the windows, we rehearsed all day and we waited for nightfall and we started shooting.
That's smart.
I've done some martial arts myself, and so I actually kind of choreographed the fighting myself.
Professor by day.
Part of it was okay.
Martial
Part of
arts
it,
by night.
part of it, I wish would have been a little different. That's
You look like you
entirely
kick my ass. I'm not gonna lie.
no comment.
Dude, he looks like you kick all of asses, dude.
I mean, everybody can kick my ass. I'm like,
But
you know.
I did Krav Maga for a while, which is it's a fun martial art to learn. It's not like
Sounds fun to say.
it's not like ha. It's like, I'm in a fight. How do I beat you?
Right.
It's
Can you pronounce that again? McGruff the dog. What type of style is it?
Krav Maga.
Oh, okay.
Krav Maga.
It's an Israeli martial arts. It's
Interesting.
that the
it's
word
not
of the
even
day?
martial art. It's really it's a self-defense form.
It's
and the
standing
idea
up?
is it's both.
It's both because it's just I like jiu-jitsu.
There's a lot of ground and pound stuff, like
Okay.
what happens when you get on the ground, what do you do if somebody's on top of you, what do you do if you get on top of somebody, because you always end up there in a fight.
Which a
pretty
lot of
much.
people ask, why would you need to know on the ground? you're gonna end up
You're
in the
gonna
ground.
end up on the ground.
A lot of people don't know that.
Didn't Batman train in Krav Maga?
No,
That
that
sounds like
was
something
it was. I think it's called Stava.
Stava?
It's no, not Stava.
Nerds.
Stava's the stick fighting.
I
It's
could have sworn it was
they
Krav Maga.
looked at Krav Maga,
'Cause it
but
does
there
sound
was
familiar.
another one. It was a Russian martial. It's a Russian martial art that involves a lot of elbows, and so that's why for the Dark Knight, there's a lot of elbow blows.
I could have sworn that it was Krav Maga.
I've looked into it. It was not Krav Maga. They looked at it as one of the possibilities, and they liked the look of this Russian martial art, and I can't remember the name of it.
That's cool, actually.
But
Kind of, it's not like Steven Seagal. You know, Steven Seagal.
no, that's Aikido.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because he does a lot of.
I'm a geek. I know.
No,
No,
that's
it's-
cool.
it's-
Random
interesting,
trivia.
interesting.
Steven Seagal is an award-winning marksman.
Yeah, people don't think it's fake. No, he knows his
He
stuff.
actually knows how to shoot.
Yeah.
Now he has the weirdest way to hold a gun I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He holds the gun almost pointed down, and I've never seen that before. But he's in real life. He's an award-winning marksman.
Yeah. There's
He's also-
videos of him.
He's also really weird, but that's okay.
Yeah, he's
Oh
a little
yeah,
weird, huh?
he's a cop somewhere.
But we choreographed for like 8 hours, starting off very, very slow. Renee and Stephanie, they both did a fantastic job taking the action, taking the
Yes.
direction. There's always things we do differently.
What did you? How did you come up with the choreography? Did you get some?
I kind of had the I kind of
just-
already
or
knew
just
what I
use
was
the
going for.
Yeah, it could have been.
There were some certain moves that I knew I wanted, like the gun strip, where she grabs a gun and she strips that out of his hand.
Yes.
That's actually a pretty common technique to disarm people.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted something like that, and I wanted that visual of the gun like sliding across and her trying to grab it. So there were some certain things that I went for in particular. I tried to make it as practical as possible, because even though films you want things to look flashy, I'm one of those. I'm like, I still want it to look like they're really trying to fight each other. So
I'm gonna be a little pretentious, but
Go for
did you try to tell a story within the fight? Like, was that your mentality? Like, how did you, like, in terms of acts? Like, is it the same way as writing a tense scene, like where you build up to a moment?
it should be, yeah.
There's
I
always-
don't think I did it. I probably didn't do that as well as I should have. Most of the story stuff is between the scenes, because there's a short fight and then they talk for a little bit, and then there's another short fight and they talk for a little bit, and there's another little bitty short fight and then it's over.
Right. But that's what I mean. Like, did you do that like intentionally into sort of?
Or was it just the way the?
Not with the actual fighting part.
It was just the way it flew.
Yeah. Like the part that stands out to me is between the first and second fight. She's acting like she's hurt and she can't really defend herself.
Right.
And Renee turns his back on her, and you see in the background her countenance changes.
Right.
Like
Yes.
it's an instant thing, and that was something
Kinda
I
like
really
Anne
intended.
Hathaway when she's Catwoman. Yeah.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job.
Right.
She went from like this intense time. It was great. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
That was a good part of the movie.
But what about in terms of like the script? What made you want to tell this story? Because we talked about like a little bit of.
Well, he said it was lingering in his head for a while, and that's why when these guys.
Well, it was an idea. It was one of those little ideas. I have a lot of people do notebooks of stuff. I do it all online. I keep all my notes online so I don't lose them.
But what happens when you have an idea when you're away from a computer?
I stop driving my car and I just
Okay.
yeah, I put it on my phone. It's apps that I use on my phone all the
I
time.
thought you were gonna be one of those recorder guys.
No.
Michael, 5 o'clock.
idea.
Michael Starlight.
No, but I do know I get most of my ideas when I'm driving, just because I'm occupied. My brain's it's the way the brain works.
And that's
the way
why
my
El
brain
Paso
works.
drivers are horrible, because they are always coming up with script ideas.
But this is one of those ideas I'd had. I think I'd heard about it somewhere else, and I just kind of blossomed the idea myself.
Because it's catchy, man. The last hit that got me.
Wonder Woman.
But yeah,
I have a question.
yeah,
Is Mike on? I have a question.
I am on. I'm always on.
I have this thing, right? So Sandra and I, my fiance and I, we were at Barnes & Noble yesterday. And she picked up this book for me that she's like, I think you really benefit from this. It's a really good book. And it's something along the lines of like 702 like writing prompts type of deal, right?
Cool.
So I checked it out, and I was going through it, and she was like really intrigued. She's like, oh, this could be a movie. This could be a movie. This could be a movie. Like just kind of that type of mentality. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So she's telling me a lot of these things. A lot of the writing prompts are like put your favorite the least important character of your favorite movie and make a movie about him or about her. You know, that type of kind of writing prompt. So she's like, it's really cool. I was like, I agree, it's really cool. I just don't see myself writing in it. Like, I don't see myself picking it up and stuff. So I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get it. And she's like, well, why? Like, doesn't that kind of fuel your writing? And I told her, to me, that feels like cheating. It feels like the idea is already kind of there and it's popping up for you, and then you're kind of. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, do you feel like, depending on how you get your inspiration for a story, I usually get it same way. I have a random thought and I want to explore that thought, or I want to explore a feeling of something I've been through or something. Somebody tells me a story, but is it? Do you guys feel like that? Like, because I really did feel like, if I'm getting it from this book that's keyed to inspire ideas in you, it felt like cheating to me. It feels like cheating to me. So I totally knocked and I was like, it just feels like cheating to me. It feels like somebody else is coming up with the idea.
I don't think so, because
everything's inspired by
So I wanted to ask you guys about your inspiration and how you kind of feel that getting inspired by something or somebody else, an idea or whatever, you know.
Because the growth out of the idea is what matters.
Exactly. Okay. As long as it's not verbatim, whatever.
And I have literally played around with. You can go online and find like writing prompt generators that just throws out random. It's kind of like ad libs, the Mad Libs thing, where they throw out random things together.
Or like
I've actually never gotten an idea from one of those.
No sleep. Sometimes.
But I played around with it. I've looked at it.
I guess I know what you mean, because it's kind of like it's kind of doing a little bit of the work for you, but it could be a good exercise regardless.
I think it's a good exercise if you're in like writer's block.
Right.
Yeah, and I was going to say that. Yeah, especially for
sounds like a
block.
cure for writer's block.
It feels like, because that's why I told her, I was like, I appreciate that you're doing this and you kind of want, you know, like, it's a good exercise, but I feel like people who pick it up for every idea, you know what I'm saying?
Right, I get you.
Like, it just feels like cheating to me. But you're right. I mean, if you're in writer's block or you kind of want to get inspired by something, I can see where that could
be your emergency. For emergency.
Yeah, like
only.
break and change in case of emergency.
There's I don't have it myself. There's a professional screenwriter named John August that he has the writers. It's a deck of cards. It's like, but it's writing prompt cards, and it's supposed to help you with ideas and stuff like that.
I like story that I don't know who wrote it. I'm not that geeky, but
Mickey.
Yeah. I had the audiobook, but yeah, it was cool. I like how he breaks down like scenes from like what is it? Jack Nicholson movie. Oh my gosh, Chinatown.
Chinatown.
Yeah.
Chinatown.
I like the way he breaks down like character interactions. So I think for me, it's like character interactions. Like if I can get a good thing like out of it. But I mean, did you find yourself in that kind of like rabbit hole? I guess of like, I mean, because a lot of betrayal in this, I suppose. Like, how do you go about like
misdirects? Lots of misdirects. Right. I like writing misdirects. To me, that's interesting. Is when you can do twists on stuff. I don't always do it well. I'm freely aware of that.
I didn't mean to like.
Oh no. Well, that's me being critical of myself.
Yeah.
And this one is all about it's all about misdirects and misunderstanding, miscommunication, and that was just the way the story flowed. It was pretty straight. It was a pretty straightforward A to B story, but heavily involved in misunderstanding and a little bit of the character getting, I guess, not necessarily lazy at the end, but not covering all your bases.
Which always happens.
And she kind of talks about that in her final little monologue of it's the little details that will make a difference. It was fun to shoot. It was fun to write. We did something technically new that we'd never done before, which was we did what was called a grunt pass. We'd edited the film together.
It's like the word of the day podcast.
The word of the day from Michael.
A grunt pass. What we did was we edited the film together. Now, when you're doing choreography in fighting in the moment, generally the actors are so focused on what's the move I'm going to do that they're not thinking about. If this was actually a fight and I was actually getting hit, you get hit and there's all the sound effects and everything.
Grunt pass.
So what you do is we brought the actors in. Do we say who helped us? Michael Tipton from iHeartRadio is a great guy.
Oh, cool.
He actually helped us. He let us go in and use his recording studio. We brought the actors in one at a time, and we had them watch the scene, and they did a lot of their own. It's those reactions.
As a new kind of like
really quick though. Mike Tipton has his own radio show now.
Oh, he does?
Tipton Radio Show.
Check it
Fox
out.
Sports.
Shout out to
Check it out.
Moncton.
Shout out.
iHeartRadio.
We have like 4 shout outs.
It's live Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Podcast
on
all
time,
about,
so
dude.
really quick shout out to him.
As the young cat
Thank
in
you.
the,
Great
in the
guy,
group,
great guy.
it's kind of like how that video, everyone's seen it. The
Logan.
Logan, yeah.
Hugh
When
Jackman,
somebody said,
yeah.
you know.
It's the same thing.
Cool.
Same idea.
Okay. So that's
We
a
did-
grunt pass.
That's a grunt pass.
Okay, cool.
We did the it's a variation on ADR, automated dialogue replacement, where an actor comes in and resays their lines. I don't think we've done ADR before. I don't think we have
The feature.
for the feature. Okay, but
it's tricky.
it's hard.
It's, yeah.
And there are some actors that are really bad at it. That's
Yeah.
why some people that are like, they're good actors, well, why don't they get more parts? Well, they can't ADR. They can't watch themselves and re-say the lines. At least I've heard that. I'm not familiar with that. I don't know anybody that did that. But this is the first time we did a grunt
Something to
pass.
know.
It worked really well.
something
Yeah.
to
It
What
was-
did
it
you
was fun.
think of the acting? Like,
I love. That's why I wanted to ask him. Like, was there any accidents, dude? Because I've had accidents. But
There wasn't in this
8
one.
to 12 hours of just.
Yeah,
That's what you
and
need.
that's you start slow. Krav Maga. Going back around to the Krav Maga thing, when I had an instructor in Krav Maga, and he had this saying he would say every single week when we had, slow is smooth, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
slow.
And so every time we were learning something new, you would go super slow. And you
Get the
start off, and because you're training your muscles how to do it,
Exactly.
and you start slow, and as you start doing it more and more and more and more,
fast. Whoa.
you start getting you're smoother at it, and it becomes
That's
it
good.
becomes natural. And that's the same idea with these fight choreographies.
And it came out natural for sure. So you guys gotta write me a fighting scene, man.
Okay.
I feel like you would do awesome.
Dude, I
for a
could
fight
do
scene.
flips, dude.
No, you have really.
Dude, I used to.
We have a Tom Holland and we haven't used them.
Best I could do is write a girl slapping you in the face. Best I could do.
I could
On a bed.
We'll work on that. I'll work on that.
So, Michael. Oh no, it's breaking on us.
It's all you, Michael.
No, is there something that you think that amateur filmmakers do wrong that causes more injuries, or something to be aware of to like keep injuries out? Because I feel like when a lot of people are writing action films, they just want to tell the actors like, okay, and now start fighting, and then like read the script and just to feel it out. But I mean, how would you?
Not enough choreography, not enough pre-planning. We've talked about this before. We had a shoot where and it was literally me that said they were supposed to practice these action scenes. They didn't do it. It's a safety issue.
Yeah.
And I teach at EPCC. The number one thing I tell my students is safety, 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 safety. There are so many things that can go wrong on a set. The number one thing is just, first off, you have to know. I have been on sets where even just the simplest of fight scenes, where on set, and we have the one I'm thinking of was an actor and an actress. Sorry.
Yeah, keep going.
Like I do. It was an actor and actress, and we're literally on set filming, and they're like, "Okay, there's the fight scene. What are you guys going to do?" And both of them were like,
No.
and they were both really good actors, and they both had experience with stunt work, and so they were working it out themselves on set while the entire crew was
not
sitting
fair,
around
though.
watching.
Right. It's not fair.
It was a huge time suck. And even in that instance, the guy accidentally he missed through a punch and he hit the girl in the face, and that was not
I
a
was
good
gonna
thing.
say that would be your main concern because I mean
this happened to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel you. Like,
So the number one thing is get somebody that knows what they're doing. It's everybody thinks they know how to fight. If you haven't had any actual training and experience, you probably don't.
Yeah.
I mentioned Krav Maga stuff, and I've done other martial arts. I did some Tang Soo Do in college. I've done several different types and styles of martial arts. So I do know about moving. I do know about fighting.
Man, I gotta keep a
Well,
piece on.
you were the stunt
So-
coordinator.
I was the stunt coordinator.
So if we ever have beef with somebody, we're sending Michael.
That's all Michael do.
And if people out there, if you see Michael
Watch
Head
out,
coming
guys.
Yo,
towards
man, I
you,
got that gang.
And I'm a nice looking, and that's the thing. I'm such an I try to look like a nice guy, but I'm like, don't mess with me, man.
I feel you.
No,
Just
that's
don't.
exactly what you look like. He looks normal, but a little off.
I just made him sound crazy, dude.
No, he's like 99%.
Well, it's not
normal.
it's
Have
not
you seen his
inaccurate either.
movies?
So it's not inaccurate. either.
Crazy.
What you guys don't know is that's how we get our budgets for Tower. We just send Michael out, and he comes back with money. We don't know what happens.
The last
but
hit
he
was
comes
based on
back
a true
with
story.
Yeah.
Where my money?
And so the number one thing is get somebody that knows what they're doing.
For sure.
There are stunt coordinators, pretty much no matter where you are, that you can find somebody that does that. We know Micah
Micah, for sure.
Fuentes?
Yes.
Fuentes with a P. He's Micah. He's a great guy. He's a stunt
Guy's
coordinator.
crazy.
Nearly had a wreck for us. Like came really close. That was not a good thing. He did. It was impressive and not necessarily in a good way. We were like, oh.
That was awesome. You were like that.
Yeah.
Like,
That looks so cool. We're like, Austin and I are like, what just happened?
Yo, dodge the bullet.
Find somebody that knows what they're doing.
Cool.
The other thing is there are some tricks you can do with cameras. Generally, you can go a little bit, if you go a little bit longer out and use a little bit of a longer lens, you can kind of hide some distance issues. So you can have somebody like throw a punch past an actor and it'll look like it's actually there, especially if they have the right reaction.
Yeah, the right reaction.
And again, it's rehearsal. It's that practice. Know what you want to do. It gets back to that choreography idea. This isn't a fight. It's really a choreographed dance.
Mm-hmm.
And so you practice over and over and over again. Know the moves, do them slow, smooth, steady, practice so much. There's a reason when you watch like fight scenes for MCU, they're training for weeks at a time. Because that's how you avoid accidents. But and even on professional sets, you have accidents that happen like that.
So what you're saying is Tower is efficient because we practice for 8 hours, not weeks.
Dude, that's legit.
We practiced for 8 hours, but we only had like 3 little bitty short
I'm
scenes
just
to do. So
There's not a lot of good fight scenes in short films either. Like
No,
I mean,
there's not.
like they tend to. I guess it shows whether or not there's been practice or not. I mean, of course it would. But like, yeah, I guess improv fights wouldn't necessarily, unless you have people who are really.
I've only ever heard of one, and I could be misremembering this. I've only ever heard of one film where they like one actual film where they like, okay, go fight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I could be totally misremembering this.
A big film?
Oh no. No, what happened was they had this big fight scene. It was the film They Live, John Carpenter.
Oh yeah,
Roddy
that's
Piper.
Right, that's right.
And they had Roddy Piper and another guy that were both
they had
like
beef.
Well, they both I
don't know.
Roddy
They
Piper
look too real. Yeah.
he was a WW whatever wrestler.
Okay.
And the other guy I think was also a wrestler, and so they actually choreographed their own fight.
Oh, so that's...
And it's just like 5 or 7 minute fight scene where they're just going at it in an alley, and it's hilarious and awesome at the same time.
I gotta check that out.
They Live. It's a weird movie.
Sorry.
It's a very strange movie.
I love that movie.
So, how was the reception for this film? What did your wife think?
I don't know if
she's the honest one with you.
I don't know if she's seen it.
Oh, for real?
Isn't
Yeah.
your wife a filmmaker? Or
No.
Didn't you say
She's a
something?
teacher.
Oh, a teacher. Okay. I think that's what the correlation I was making.
theater.
Oh,
She
that's
did
what
theater.
it was. That's what it was.
She did theater training, but she was always a behind the scenes person. She
Cool.
was always the
Stage manager
backstage
or-
stage
Cool,
manager. She
cool.
loves stage managing.
Dude, I always say stage managers are the ones who like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they
deserve
get it
way
done.
more
They
credit.
get it done. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, she leaves you alone with your stuff, or...
I've tried to get her involved in stuff, and
Yeah,
it's
I've always
like,
wanted to ask, man. Like like.
I feel you.
I feel you.
And what about
she
Ren-
kind of gets bored
No.
on set. I don't know.
I feel
That's
you.
one of those things.
Sandra over here. And so, I know Renee was asking
hmm
if you can make it a longer or a sequel.
A sequel. Jerry, he's still asking me about it.
Really? Lots of sequels that
It's
need
a
to get
good
made.
one. It's a good one, just too
Yeah.
short for my taste. It was just...
This is a terrible comparison, and I'm the one making the comparison. And I don't think I could pull this off right now as it stands. It's almost like a John Wick world, because the depth that they put into the world of John Wick.
Especially in 2.
And they're expanding it all the time. Everything they do in John Wick is about building this world. They have the awesome fight scenes. Part of the reason their fight scenes are so good was the directors are stuntmen. Like I think one of the directors was actually Keanu Reeves' stunt double for The Matrix.
For The Matrix, yeah.
And so they have tons of experience, and that's why the fights were so cool, and the gun fights and everything. And I love those movies.
Perfection.
Okay, the third one was a little weird, but
Yeah, that one was
I thought the
weird.
second one was weird.
No,
But the
third
second one
to
is
me
still good because
stretched.
it's really.
Yeah, and I have story issues with the third one, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, the third one was
But
all
they
over.
build this deep world, and with the last hit we kind of scratched the surface of this.
It's a lot going on in that movie.
It could be expanded a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the depth of the world could be expanded a lot. I haven't really thought about doing that yet.
Is that because you got more projects coming up?
It's mostly just time.
Time.
Yeah.
Hey, there's still
Family.
time.
No. Time, family.
And you know what's funny?
I have a
is
2-year-old now.
Really?
That's creepy.
How's the sleep?
Mostly okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you
that
balance
first year is the hard
How do you
one, right?
balance that? How do you balance being a director and then
My
being a
wife is
father?
wonderfully supportive.
That's awesome.
And it's
She's stage managing her child.
yeah. It's hard. It's super hard because I don't want to miss my child growing up. And I've heard way too many people, and I've had friends that their dads were never around because work.
Mars close.
That's a good mentality,
So
though, man.
I want to make sure. I try to make sure that I'm there as much as I possibly can. It's a balancing act.
This is out of like film, but how do you turn it off since you have I don't know how many students you gotta keep up with?
That's true,
How do you turn
man.
it off to go back to?
I've never had a problem with it. I've been a teacher for 15 years now, and so that has never been a problem for me.
Oh, really?
I don't know why. Maybe I'm just one of those weird compartmentalized stuff.
There's plenty of teachers out there that go through that struggle of you can't turn it off because like both my parents are teachers, so they have the job where they go and they might teach or they deal with their students and all that, but then when they come back it's grading and it's focusing on that, so it's really hard to put like work at work and home at home. I feel like for education jobs especially that's difficult, but I mean it's great that you found a balance. I think a lot of people really struggle with that.
And I also worked with a teacher that kind of mentored me, and she really helped me and she really encouraged me to be like, don't take stuff home. Bust your butt during the day, and so when you go home you don't have to worry about it as much. And that division helped me a lot, because then I can go home and I can actually focus on my family.
Is that how you handle maybe the film life too? It kind of melds together. Like
my wife is wonderfully supportive.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. She is really good about if I have a shoot I have to go to, she supports me, she helps me, and it helps that we have family here that helps if we have with watching Emerson. And
the thing about Michael too is I think that philosophy, because I agree with him, that's why education was so hard for me when I was a teacher, because I like to leave work at work, and I really do the same philosophy, work hard there so I can go home and not worry about it. But on set, Mike was the hardest worker on set. So for anything, if he's directing, if he's DPing, if he's cam mopping, whatever. So
it's because I hate wasting time.
Yeah, I think that's what it is too. But because you're right, you have a limited time on set. We all sometimes don't get you for whatever have you. You have to go home or something happens, and when you're at home, I've noticed Michael will text us when he can. Like he's not on his phone all the time. He's not constantly worrying about what's coming up. Like I'll get to my messages when I'm done with my family, like that type of deal. Yeah. And then when he's on set, he leaves his phone in the car. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the hardest worker on set. Like I had to get your phone from your car yesterday. That's what I started noticing.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
I forgot about that.
But that's Michael's philosophy. And he really does hold true to that. He's the hardest worker on set, and that helps. Man. So once he goes home, he's not worrying if he did a bad job or not. He knows he busted his ass to make the film happen. So.
Well, to let the audience and the viewers know more about you, man, because I really don't know much about you. Where do you get your inspiration? Who do you read? What books you read? What movies? You said you like thrillers.
Well, honestly,
where does the seed come from?
I want to say stuff, but go for
Where did the seed come from?
Well, you notice a lot of my stuff is crime thriller type stuff.
Right.
My dad was a police officer growing up.
Oh, that's right.
And so a lot of that inspiration comes from real life stories that he has told us.
Night Shift.
From him telling
Night Shift is a legit story that happened to my dad. It's a dramatization of it, but it is pretty much what happened in Night Shift happened to my dad in real life. And
that's why you wanted to write the stories and not be the cop, because of how horrible and how tough that job is.
It's
assumed.
It is a intense job.
A pro police dude. They then for 8 hours, 12-hour shifts. They don't know who they're gonna stop.
And when we were growing up, my dad was on the night shift, so we would come home from school. He'd spend a few minutes with us, then he'd leave, and so it was my mom with us at home. He'd come back in the morning just about in time for us to go off to school, and he'd sleep during the day. Police officers are awesome.
Donut operator.
The job that they do is super hard. Everybody, there's a lot of people that are like down on police officers right now.
Yeah,
and
I see these videos.
I will freely admit, not every police officer is good. I will be the first to admit that. But at the same time, a vast, overwhelming majority of them work hard, and they are putting their lives on the line to help people be safe. And that's part of why I have those. I grew up with those stories. One time my dad, we were at the mall, we were hanging out at the mall, he got a phone call. This actually wasn't even a police officer, this is when he was a justice of the peace. He got a phone call, and he's like, okay, we gotta go to a crime scene now. So he put me in the car, and we drove to this crime scene, and he had to go talk to people, and I'm sitting in the car like...
just trying to see what's going on, see if you can see the body.
That was what happened. Somebody had killed, and somebody died, and he had to go verify the body and everything, and it was... it was weird. He didn't tell me all the details. And he was also really good. He told us stories, but he was also very good about protecting us and keeping us from like maybe the really, really, really dark.
I gotta say, was he a little paranoid? I feel like police officers are
not
paranoid by
I had to have this discussion when we were talking with Assumed. It's not paranoia, but it is a different level of alertness. It's always being I've heard it described as condition orange, where you're just aware of what's going on around you. It's not. You're not on red alert. You're not just oblivious to everything, but you're just aware of stuff. So that my dad would, when he'd see somebody acting suspicious, he'd just keep an eye on them, and if nothing happened, nothing happened. But he was also be aware.
5 checks. Right.
Of course, he was also such a good shot. He would play duck hunt. We'd go out to eat, and he'd put in a quarter for duck hunt. He'd play for 3 hours without a break. So
really,
yeah.
You mean you have to use your hands? It's like a baby's toy.
It's the future. So why aren't you writing more about these crime?
I am.
Assumed, man.
Assumed. I got.
But any other stuff coming?
I also have this kind of. I also have this. We're working on a horror thing right now. I like horror. I also like what?
You can't say that much.
He's gonna throw your hat at you. Be careful. Be careful.
I didn't
say FITP. So
true.
Let's fix it in post.
Fix it in pre.
I'm talking about his right side of his brain. Okay, that's in his left side.
I have.
That's fine.
We're still working on it. I know we're still working on it. We are still working on it. I have some ideas for one of the things that's kind of been in the back of my mind. It's kind of been in my back burner. The heaviest is actually a historical drama, Civil War era.
Cool.
It would be a biopic about an actual person. But I also have a deep, abiding love of supernatural thrillers too. There's a movie called Deliver Us from Evil. It's Scott Derrickson who directed Doctor Strange
and Sinister.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome.
He did Deliver Us from Evil, which is the true life story of a New York City police detective who is also an exorcist in the Catholic Church.
Really?
And I read the book, and the book is amazing, and the book is all stories, but they wrote this movie based on his life, and so I like it's just a weird thing to say. I like the overlap of real life with the supernatural because I do think it is real.
Wow.
And I do think it affects us.
It's kind of got that blend.
Outsiders? I gotta check that out.
The Outsider, yeah. It's a Stephen
The Outsider. Okay.
They recently got booted off from the Doctor Strange sequel, but they're working on a Bermuda Triangle movie now with Chris Evans. So like, I'm glad that they're going back to horror because they really wanted to make a horror Doctor Strange sequel, but they, Marvel, But
it's Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness. So
right,
it's going to be interesting.
Movie, yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
But I mean, what do you think you took away from this? Because here's my theory. You did the fight scenes here in preparation, or at least the more of an action based story for preparation for Assumed. That's my assumption. That's what I assume.
We didn't really have a lot of fights in Assumed, and so I don't. It wasn't really.
I feel like there was some prep though, at least, or I mean, I don't know, maybe unintentional.
Thematically, it was similar. But yeah, it was honestly like we needed another script, and I had this idea, and it was really simple shoot.
Do you think that any of the lessons that I mean, I know we're not on Assumed yet, but like, do you think any lessons from this film helped you out with Assumed, or maybe in the back of your head, I don't know. Just in terms of scale, I guess.
I can't really say yes to that. I mean, everything is a learning experience, so you always try to get better at stuff. So I can't say directly yes, but everything is practice. Everything is helping to improve the next thing.
Cool.
So in that regard, yes. But I don't know if there was specifically something that said, yeah, I'm going from here to.
Because that's what I see from it. Because like, I mean, the first film you did with Tower, Night Shift, is like a very calm, like, kind of like, just the story of a life of a night shift guard or cop. And then you go to Poster Girl, which, thematically just emotional and stuff like that. And then to this one, it's more action-packed, and then Assume is more... Even though there's not a lot of fighting scenes, I just feel... Yeah, I just feel like your momentum kept going.
That's what I said, is Last Hit and Assume, they're more in my wheelhouse. Poster Girl is kind of an offsite. It was just kind of a weird thing. I'm glad it's done so well.
Good.
I'm glad it's done well, and I think I'm excited I did it.
I've gotten a lot of compliments for it.
But my kind of... The stuff I usually write is more thriller...
And like you said,
crime.
you have that momentum. Keep writing.
I am.
Okay.
It's just a process. It's a slow process.
No, I feel you.
You have a lot of good ideas that I want you to do. So.
Oh, I have so many ideas.
Too many ideas.
Some good. Some I'm like, why would I ever think that was a good idea? But
we all have some of those.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have bringing you a trivia. The good word of the
good
day.
Word of the day.
It's for the word of the day. Let's see if you could trick the professor over here.
Well, it won't be tricking you probably in film knowledge because I feel like there's plenty you can teach me. But
But
can you tell me the definition of persnickety?
Persnickety?
Yeah.
The exact definition probably
A
not, but
loose
it's usually somebody that's extremely picky about something.
It's somebody who fixates on small details.
you got this twice today.
Directors.
Okay. But well, I mean,
I think I've used it in a
one's
script actually.
Yeah. It's alright.
this one,
We got a tough one here. Right?
I don't know.
Okay. But I think this one's not so much like a word that's probably going to trick a lot of people up, but it's something to be aware of, which is cognizant.
Cognizant.
It's being aware of things.
It's being aware of things, yes. And I think that's a pretty good, like, I don't know. The reason I kept that word and I kept it in my notebook is because I feel like when you're writing or when you're filming and all that, it's good to just make sure that you're being as aware as possible and you're focusing on the small details. You're being persnickety about your film. And I think, those are two good things to just keep in mind with whatever you're doing.
And that was Delao bringing you a trivia curveball.
Ask your doctor if persnickety is right for you. Sounds like a pill around.
And talking about supernatural, like, since you're a little bit into it or just a lot?
As much as I haven't written stuff that's been produced yet, one of the first films I made was had a big, strong supernatural element.
I have to ask, has anything ever happened to you?
Oh, heck yeah.
We're continuing this on, yeah?
Hey, that's interesting. You gotta let us know on one that's top on the
I don't know
top.
if we have time for this.
One that's convincing, because some of them are like, it could have been an electrical light or something.
Oh no, I gotta. So
first Jerry Walker, now Michael Hay.
And this is gonna take a minute to actually say.
No.
The college town I went to was Brownwood. They had this building called Coggin Theater.
Coggin Theater.
It was a theater stage production, obviously.
Okay.
The story of the theater is the Coggins, when the theater was built, they were a very influential family in the town. Mm-hmm. The story is the night before the first performance there, Lady Coggin, who was obviously the wife, was looking around, just kind of inspecting the building, went up on the balcony of the theater and looked down and saw her husband and somebody else on the theater engaging in...
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so she ran down to the basement and hung herself. That's the story. Now, I don't know if that's actually real or not. I do know... The head of the theater department, when I was there, the building was condemned. Nobody could go in. Nobody was supposed to go in. They still used it for storage.
That's even more creepy.
That's even creepier, yeah.
The entryway to the foyer for the building, it had a set of stairs that went up. They went onto a landing and went up again, and that's how you got into the balcony. Okay. The director of the theater program, who I had classes with, she was a great lady, Miss Humphreys. She was fantastic. She was in the theater. It was after a performance. She was closing it down. By the way, after Lady Coggin killed herself, everybody said it was haunted. Of course, the head of the theater department didn't believe it. Whatever. She was closing down the theater, and she was the last person in the building. She was walking down from the balcony she'd locked the balcony door. She was walking down. She got to the landing, which was about a little more than story, a little more than a story height.
Okay.
Because it was a really large balcony. She got shoved from behind so hard, she did not roll down the stairs. She flew over all the stairs and landed on the floor. Right and she never went into the building again after that. Never went in.
I wouldn't either.
A girl that I dated before I met my wife, she was getting getting costumes with one of the other theater directors from the college.
Same building?
Same building. They were getting stuff, and she walked past the stage, and she noticed one of the theater lights was hanging down, like about at eye level, and it was on. And she's like, that's really weird. And she followed the power line for the cable, which went up. It was around it coiled itself around the scaffolding, the light bar, and the end of the cable came down, and the plug was hanging next to the light. And that was on.
No.
And she was walking past with the other teacher, this other professor, and she elbowed him, and she said, "Hey, what's this?" And he was like, "Don't look, just keep walking." And so they went out.
Creepy.
All of that is kind of background, and there's other stories. A friend of mine actually saw a costume move from one rack to another rack by itself.
Wait, why are you getting mad at that ghost? He's just organizing.
It's all
Thank
creepy,
you for
dude. It's creepy.
getting some of that creepy vibe. Oh my god.
While I was there, the building was condemned and it was torn down. About a couple of weeks before it was torn down, me and some friends, I had never been into it. One of the big things was you go into Coggin Theater.
All Michael did was just tell his friends, like, don't worry, I know, like, martial arts.
No,
He was the first one in.
me and a group of about 6 friends, we decided we were going to go in. And I literally...
Dude, this is the start of a horror film.
I literally was like, we're going to go on a ghost hunt. Let's go to Coggin. And I got about 6 of my friends. We went there. We broke in. This is before I met my wife. And we got to the stage. It was cool. Nothing. It was a theater.
Was it like all broken down, or was barely?
It wasn't in terrible shape. The stairs had started to fall down. That was part of why it was condemned. So the building itself was okay.
Okay.
We went down into the basement, into the room that the story is where Lady Coggin
You guys
hung
are
herself.
Crazy.
I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, okay.
That was not something I was aware of. And I remember walking into the building, or walking into that room, and literally having a voice in my head going, "Get out now."
Oh man. Yeah, out of here.
And I was like,
either that's your conscience or that's a ghost.
I literally stepped into the room and stopped. My friends were walking around me. I'm like, "We gotta go."
Yeah.
And I was like, they're like, "What?" No, we gotta go. We haven't finished that. We have to go.
Yeah.
I feel you.
And so we got in the car. We drove to Whataburger, and by the time we got to Whataburger, my hands were going numb.
Oh.
I was starting to clench my hands. My face was going numb.
Well, like it's barely hitting you, kind of.
I literally sat down at Whataburger, and I pushed. I remember sitting there.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking, what the heck is going on?
You were just.
I was pushing my hands down on the table because if I didn't, they were clenched. Everything was clenching up. My face was numb. And they were talking. I don't know what they were talking about. I have no idea what anybody was saying.
You're just like, I need to calm down.
I'll just tell the full story. I'm a Christian. My friends are all Christians. I literally went out I literally was like, guys, I need some fresh air. I went out into the parking lot, walked down the side of the building, like collapsed, and I was sobbing. And I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. I don't know how long I was sitting there. Eventually I hear one of my friends go, "Hey guys, come here," and pulls all my friends out, and like I'm in this like just this ball curled up against the building. I'm sobbing. I can barely breathe. And they started praying for me. Mm-hmm. It was only when they started praying for me that started to go away. Mm-hmm. And it took about 30 minutes for it to actually be gone. But it was the instant that they started praying for me that all that stuff started to leave.
Right.
You invaded somebody's personal space or something.
So
Right.
yeah, I've had experiences.
Damn.
And that's not the only thing my family has experienced. So
I get you.
yeah.
Wow.
It's real. It happens. I know people are like, "That's just fake," and I'm, no, it's not.
Imagine that.
Pretty creepy.
I mean, like,
I've thought I've seen something, but not like.
I've never had like
I've seen
that
my brother
vivid
fly
of an
across the room.
experience,
Wait.
but
I've seen several people.
Did you throw him
do that.
across the room?
No. He had an imaginary friend, and me and my mom were downstairs.
That sounds like every horror movie right now.
And then he just started saying, no, I don't want to do that. And then my mom just went upstairs, and I went behind her. My brother was little. He can't jump that high. So he jumped backwards towards the wall. And I remember he just ran out of the room, but didn't want to go inside the room, and I was just
That's weird.
I've seen several people that happen to.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
God, I'm spooked.
You?
Like,
Spooked.
I have never
Welcome
had
to the
an
Halloween episode of
I
the
know.
TowerCast.
Like-
It's not even October.
I've never had an experience like that, and I'll joke around sometimes. Like, it's odd. I was with my girlfriend at like Barnes and Nobles like yesterday, and we were walking past like the board game section, and I like pulled out a Ouija board and like handed
I've
it to
never
her.
played it.
And like I
would never.
I guess
Never.
am I
Why?
okay?
Why
Wait,
mess with that?
This is a question of am I a bad person? She believes that any like that has some bad juju behind it. Like it's just it's bad news, and just any physical any physical contact with it is just like that's you're not supposed to. Like if it's there, leave it there, walk away. That's
Doesn't
it.
exist.
So the game I always try to play is how many times can I like try to get it in her hands without her noticing, and then she looks down and gets surprised. It's a bad game.
You're a mean person.
Am I a mean person?
You're a mean person.
Hey, you know what?
My mom played with the Ouija board when she was in high school, and she said she still has issues with it.
My mom was telling me that when she was younger, they played with like a Ouija board, and I think her cousin played with a Ouija board, or somebody in her family did, and her mom tried to get rid of it, and I think tried to burn it, and it wouldn't burn, and they didn't know what.
I've heard stories like
they couldn't get rid of it, and then they said that
It
after
could be
that.
something in the board or something.
After that house just had different experiences and knocks and all that kind of stuff. The only thing I've had, but it's never been like a bad ghost, is I've always heard like either like sounds in my house, or I've smelled like cigarette smoke, but everything that I've like heard or seen is all very reminiscent of my grandparents. So it's almost like it feels like their energy's there, and it feels like a nice ghost, if any. But I've never had like being flung across the room. I mean, props for you.
I've seen it.
I know Austin's got some.
So I actually have multiple stories.
So we have.
So you're a believer?
Time.
Oh, big believer, dude. The story that I've said a lot, and not necessarily something was thrown at me, but I used to work at a gas station down by the border, and one day I was restocking the cooler. Now, if you've worked in a gas station, when you're working in the cooler, you really can't hear a whole lot of stuff outside.
Yeah, no.
All you do is you leave especially when you work by yourself, you leave the cooler door open so you can hear the door. Right. Somebody walks in, you get out of the cooler, and you go take care of business. Well, whenever I go in the cooler, I make sure nobody's there, like, at all. I go into the cooler, start restocking, don't hear the door, and I just hear a loud bang. So I walk out, and I'm like, well, what was that? Did something fall? And mind you, the back walls where the registers were, there was a frame on the wall. Okay. The frame was launched across the store. It didn't just like fall and slide. No, this was like thrown across the store. That was one of the first times I experienced something there. Another time, the way the store was set up, I was cleaning the roller grill, and out of the corner of my eye at the door, I see someone. So I'm thinking, they're gonna come in. I'll look up when they come in. 5 minutes passed, person didn't move. So I finally look up, I see an old Mexican gentleman, no feet, dressed in a suit.
Get the fuck out of here.
I look up, he's there for like 2 seconds and just disappears.
Whoa.
So those are two of the big ones.
Oh no, man!
That would
have ended me, man.
I quit.
Exactly. Something's going on here. Man.
I had some friends over at the Scottish Rite. Got a tour of the place. I didn't see anything there. I've heard stories of what's happened there, but there was a couple rooms that I couldn't even walk into because of the feeling in there. Like
presence.
Mm-hmm.
They took us. If you guys don't know, Scottish Rite has a theater.
I can't do shit like that.
So they took us into like the backstage. They took us to where people would change and stuff back in the day. One of the rooms, I physically couldn't walk in. Like everybody walked in, I tried to go, and I just felt this weird dark presence, and that presence kept drawing me to a corner of the room. Like I couldn't even look away from that corner of the room, and I just felt something was there. And next thing I know, that was gone, and then I was drawn to like another corner of the room. Like I just felt it there, like the guy moved. People say that a ghost from the plaza has been moved to the Scottish Rite with the seats that are there now. I've had a couple instances at my house similar to.
So now we're going to turn into a horror podcast.
Yeah.
It's because the scary thing about a ghost is how do you protect yourself?
Well, that's the thing. There's ghosts and then there's demons.
Pray for sure.
I'm a big believer that ghosts are not evil. There's demons.
Oh, okay.
There's those quote unquote ghosts that are evil or will hurt you, but I don't consider them ghosts. To me personally, I mean, I could be completely wrong.
And see, I would say that even the friendly ghosts are actually demons just pretending.
Exactly, because they're still lingering.
Only ghost I know is the Holy Ghost.
They're not upstairs.
Like, I've had a similar instance at home with like that. Oh, my grandpa passed away a couple years ago, and he lived with us the last couple of years of his life. Randomly at random times of the day, you would hear a cane, and it wasn't something I was hearing in my head because you would. I wasn't the only one hearing it
with earplugs, man.
I wasn't the only one hearing it. Other people in my house would hear a cane, and he would walk around the house with a cane. For a month after he passed, same thing. I couldn't walk into the room, like I could just feel something was there. We used to have like a bell for him, like when he needed help with something.
Yeah.
And the bell sometimes would just randomly go off.
That's creepy,
bro.
Yeah, and it's my mom one time thought I was playing a prank on her because she was upstairs. And I'm in my room, and I'm like a room over from where my grandpa used to stay, and the bell was going off. Same thing. I thought she was playing a prank on me. She thought I was playing a prank on her because we were the only people in the house. She comes downstairs. She's like, "Why are you ringing the bell?" And I was like, "I swear I'm not in my room." And I told her, I was like, "Where's the bell? I know you're playing with me."
Mm-hmm.
So
I would have been like,
room, and the bell's on the nightstand. So,
all right. Welcome to the Tower Horror Podcast. All right, here we go.
We
Tower Terror or whatever.
I always say that he's gone now because we had a trip planned for, like, it was in May, and he passed away in February. From February to May, all this weird stuff was happening in my house. We go on the trip. He was very excited for the trip before he passed. When we come back from the trip, nothing. So we think he was just waiting for that to go. But I've had multiple experiences, so I'm a big believer in all that.
That's interesting, man.
Nice.
Well, Michael, see what you did?
You asked, man. You started it.
That was really interesting.
Yeah. I don't know where to... I don't know, man.
I thought
films!
Good
We're so
podcast
far from
episode.
Halloween, and we're getting
I know, man.
stuff.
I'm crazy, so I'm just like...
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man.
Good stuff,
Finish
yeah.
off the show.
Go for it. What's the number for Ghostbusters? I don't even know, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man. Hey, that was some good storytelling, though, for sure.
Yeah,
So
man, I was
surrounded by
really
good
interested.
storytelling, so yeah. But I think that wraps it up for us, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very, very crazy episode.
Hope you liked this
Very
episode.
interesting stuff. Good
Hit the
things
like.
touched on. Yeah, no problem, you guys. Like, please keep writing your scripts, keep filming your films, and don't mess with things you shouldn't. And make sure you pray.
Just as your friendly reminder, remember you can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Thanks. Shout out to our sponsor, Anchor.
Oh, you can show up
And,
here.
make sure you can always give us a review, 5 stars. If
Exactly.
you like a video element, we're always on Facebook and YouTube. Drop a like.
And drop
subscribe,
comments how
turn
we
on
can get better and stuff
notifications.
like that, for sure.
Oh, and also...
Don't talk about creepy stuff.
I know.
And if you're having trouble keeping up with all these TowerCast episodes, because man, they're busting out like very
man,
weekly
Austin is
hotcakes.
just boom,
out.
like a machine.
We're gonna be finishing up pretty soon. Season 1,
Season 1, yes. Season 2.
and but feel
around the
free
corner.
to go back and look at all the episodes, catch up, watch the films.
give us some critiques. And stay tuned for the next one.
That wraps it up for us, you guys. Keep tuned, keep writing, and keep believing. See you guys later.
See you guys.
Y'all made me shit my